SRD partner and owner Todd Dantzler joins us again to promote his new podcast, Todd's Podcast, and discuss various topics. We hope you enjoy.
In Our Expert Opinion podcast is brought to you by SVN Saunders Ralston Dantzler Real Estate, a full-service land and commercial brokerage with over $4 billion in transactions since 1996.
Said it on the last episode we recorded, and I'll say it again, over $4.5 billion in transactions since 1996. And I would say not bad for a couple of rednecks. Just hanging out.
You talk about dating Gary?
No, never. Welcome back to Our Expert Opinion podcast. I'm Linda, and I have a couple of people in the room with me today. I have my trusty co-host. Yeah, that's
How
iffy.
much trust?
Yeah, we're building it. It's not great. But anyways, we have Chad, and then we have young Eli as well. Eli, I think that you were on another podcast episode that we did, but I don't remember who it was with.
Brett Cyphers.
Yes, that was a good one.
It was.
That was a really good one.
For those watching, there's not going to be any footage of Eli or myself, as always.
True.
Yeah.
Chad was on one episode, and and Michael's never been on an episode, but Michael did help start this podcast, barely. And then I have my favorite broker today, Todd Dantzler.
Good to be here.
Yeah, again,
yes. Number 2 for me. I'm starting to learn about this business.
I know. Actually, the reason that you're learning about this business and the reason that we have you on today is because
Starting my own podcast, and it's going to be called the Toddcast.
Nope.
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 Todd's Podcast.
There it is. Perfect.
Todd's Podcast. That's what the name of it is. Sorry. I've had 3 pages worth of names that I've been going through and trying to come up with, and the Toddcast is what I wanted originally. Found out there's a number of those out there, so we had to get rid of that and get some others, and work through a bunch of names and finally settled on Todd's Podcast yesterday afternoon.
I wanted it to be Todd's Pods, but I think that's taken as well.
There were some creative names that were thrown my way, some from my kids, some from you guys, some from Chad. Some were creative. Eli, who's apparently wanting to get in on this podcast, and he wanted me to tell everyone he's 20 and he's single and he's ready to mingle. He's looking for any woman that's 20 years old or about. Isn't that correct, Eli?
Sure thing.
There you go.
Any.
Let's not say that.
All right. So I've got my advertisement for Eli out of the way.
Happy with that, Eli? Anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. Anything you want to take? You want to subtract? Anything you want to take out?
None of that came from my mouth. I will say that.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's what you told me in my office right before we came in, right?
I think you asked me, and I said, sure thing.
So one of the names I thought about was, wait, I made that up. Just what I'm talking about right here with Eli. I made that whole thing up. So
Thank you.
Gosh.
Eli has no idea what he's in for.
No.
I think one of the podcasts needs to go over the names that were just thrown out, whether they were in consideration or not.
Well, the original name I had was the Toddcast, and determined we couldn't do that. And in talking with Eli and Jennifer, it's like, how do I come up with a name? Eli said, well, it doesn't have to make sense, just brainstorm. So that's a dangerous thing for me to do, is brainstorm. So I came up with a bunch of names. Chilling with Todd, what the heck? Are you kidding me? Have one on me? That's nonsense. The Big Honkin' Podcast was one of my favorites. The String Bikini Podcast, that was named in honor of Kerry Wilson, who's a friend in Winter Haven. And he said if he ever had a band, he wanted to call it the String Bikini Band. So I always thought that was funny, and that has stuck with me. Redonkulous Toddcast. But wait, there's more. That was a working title up until yesterday. The World According to Todd. Had some others.
The World According to Todd is terrifying.
No. It's
See, I like the acronym.
yeah. You didn't get to vote though.
No.
Sorry.
Oh,
Totally obscure delusional discussions.
Yeah, and you should have that one for your podcast because I can't even say what you just said. So
Transforming our daily discussions.
another working title for another one. So, but that was a big thing, is trying to figure out how to name this thing. Apparently that's a little inside humor with you two. You two.
No. There were some other ones not so great. A titillating observation of daily discussion.
Okay, these are yours. These were not on my list ever because this is the first I've heard of that. So
I figured I'd save them for the podcast.
I never
I appreciate that.
want to hear that word come out of your mouth again.
Yeah. So, that was part of it is, hey, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to name it?
Yeah.
I was not a podcast person. The first one I was ever exposed to was being on your podcast last year, I think, is when we first started.
Well, I didn't
taping these.
expose anything, Todd.
No, and I'm smart enough to not let you do that. and I'm old enough that I can bury you, but you can't hurt me too bad. So let's not get too deep in things. But and then I listened to Gary and Dean's the interviews you did with him, and that was kind of it.
Well, I actually think that you have been listening to podcasts for a long time. They were just radio shows.
Absolutely.
Because I know that you listen to, I don't know, anytime I've gotten into your car, typically it's not music playing. Typically it's, some kind of.
It was talk radio
Yeah.
for a long, long time. And after the last election, I just said, I'm just got to get rid of
Sure.
this stuff. It just is all the same. I love,
Presidential election?
yeah.
Okay.
And I loved Rush Limbaugh. I think he was just one of the great entertainers and one of the great broadcasters. Whether you liked him or not, I think 50 to 60% of him of what he did was just grinding on people just to get a goof off of them. And so I said, hey, I'd like to do something like that. So I listened to music. When this whole idea came up, Jennifer had given me a couple of names. The first one was Bone Valley, and I listened to the first episode. I didn't realize there was 9 of them, so I got sucked into that. So I listened to 9 episodes in like a day and a half. I was listening to them at home, listening to them in the car, talking to my daughter about it, who listens to them all the time. And then the next one I listened to was Till Death.
Dr. Death.
Dr. Death. And another one of these things is 5 or 6 parts, and then there's explanations and everything. And so I really kind of started liking the crime drama, true crime.
True crime podcast.
Yeah. And I listened to some of the comedies. Jennifer gave me some comedy. So this is my kind of foray into this.
But what I'm hearing is, did you think that a podcast was just one episode and done?
Well, I didn't really know. That was my understanding, because that's what you did with me, is we did one episode and
I see.
then you went to the next subject. I realized there was a series.
Yes.
And I knew that you did more than one because I listened to Gary and I listened to Dean and 2 or 3 minutes of some of the others, but I just never really knew how to get them on my phone, to be quite honest.
Did you listen to the Murdaugh murders?
No, I haven't.
So good.
I haven't. I don't really know how to find all these things. So I'm learning
Yeah.
about my phone a lot too. And
Oh, we might even change your font size
we may.
later.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. But
TBD.
so it's been interesting. And
I think that you've been listening to podcast like shows for a long time.
And I think it's just talk radio, basically, whether it's on a radio or delivered over.
It's just
the
a different
internet.
format.
Correct. And
Now, are you going to kind of do like a Rush Limbaugh or like Piers Morgan thing where you're just like kind of going after somebody? Okay.
no. It's going to be positive. I want it to be a positive experience for anyone that we talk to. It's not a gotcha thing. There's plenty of that. I don't want to do politics. I don't want to do real estate. You're brilliant at what you do on the real estate side, so I don't need to do that. But I will have political people from time to time, elected officials, but I don't want to get into how they form their opinion on abortion or sending people to war or whatever. I want people to understand how the process goes to making the decisions and the process of convincing other people to get to their side. So
Yeah, not just an end product thing, but behind the scenes
Right.
as to like daily things that go on. I think
Correct.
that would be nice.
I
'Cause I don't
wish-
think, I mean, I don't know.
Right. And so I think some of the questions, I mean, Eli heard the first interview that we did, and it was with Rowdy Gaines. I'll tell you, he was the second interview, and Rowdy and I were childhood friends. We used to spend the night with each other when we were little kids, and did all kinds of silly, stupid stuff, and we're friends through high school. And for those that don't know, Rowdy's a 3-time Olympic gold medal winner, and he was the fastest man in the water in 1980. And he was projected to win 4 gold medals. And that's when the president, Jimmy Carter, decided we were going to boycott the Russian Olympic Summer Games. And Rowdy was just crushed. So I wanted to know how he dealt with that, what he did in the meantime, because there's not a professional swimming league where you could go out and make your living. And he had to help make a living by being a night manager at a hotel, and just how he dealt with that. And then hopefully that's what'll come out is how different people make decisions, how they deal with tough times in their life, and maybe someone will get an idea or get inspired by that.
So like work ethic, leadership.
That's part of it. Yeah.
Daily habits, routines.
Yeah,
like,
but not for everybody. I
Right.
mean, different people will have different things that I want to talk about. Some of them I will know. Some of them I will be friends with from childhood. Some I will know just from my life as a elected official. Some will be from my life as real estate that I've done. And hopefully just kind of get a cross section of people that the listeners will find interesting and maybe learn something about them, and they'll want to listen to the podcast on a fairly regular basis.
Who is your like Everest interview? Who is like the one person that you would like to interview? If your dream.
That's putting a man on a spot right there.
I don't really have one. I haven't thought like that. I'm scheduled to interview our sheriff, Grady Judd, coming up, but a lot depends on what happens that day if he's available. So yeah, anytime you're dealing with a law enforcement officer, especially the sheriff or chief of police, you're kind of at the whim of the day. He will certainly be one. I've got Miss Florida that I'm working to get an interview with. Already got I just have to wait till she's here in Lakeland to do it. There's some elected officials, and there's some entertainers. And what I want to do is invite the listeners. Hey, if you know someone that you think people would like to hear from, let me know. The website is todddantzler.com.
todddantzler.com.
Thank you. And the name of the podcast is Todd's Podcast. Look at that. I've already got it memorized. And hopefully people will say, hey, have you thought about John Doe or Jane Doe? And,
I hear they're dead.
they are, but their second and third cousins are available. So we'll go with them. And, find some interesting people out there that I don't know.
Yeah.
And so that's the goal of why I wanted to do it. I wanted to do some music, but music
I
is
know.
not that easy to find music.
I do want to get into that a little bit because
Who has done your research for this program? I didn't know that you and I
sir,
talked about
I
all
don't
this.
know that I think people Eli, here's the thing.
Okay.
I think that people think I don't pay attention or that I don't do my research. And in fact, that could be true. But I do hear
That's a great name for a podcast. In fact, that could be true.
in fact, that could be true. But I hear things and then I kind of do some digging around, and I said, this person said, guess what song he wanted? And I said something by Led Zeppelin. I don't know. And then I said,
choice.
if it's CCR and he gets to play CCR and I don't, I'm going to be pretty upset.
Well, the last thing we want to do is upset you.
Thank you, Todd. Again,
Don't ever
you don't want to
mention it
upset me again. And we'll get to the apology tour later, but again. But then it kind of surprised me and made me laugh a little bit about the band that you wanted to play your intro song, which was
I don't have any idea. That was several
Tears.
weeks ago. Tears for Fears.
Yeah.
That was one of them. Everybody wants to rule the world. But a lot depends on what I'm listening to. I mean, I
Yeah.
used to listen to a lot of radio and music, and then I kind of got waylaid and started listening to a lot of talk radio, and I'm out of that. And I'm trying to listen to more music now and comedy and just not much on the talk radio.
What kind of comedy are you listening to?
Jennifer, who was apparently my only access to the podcast world, is Dana Carvey and David Spade,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
whatever they are. And she's given me some others, but I have not been looking at this. I've not been in the podcast world for too long. So I'm just starting to explore it. My son will give me a name, or my daughter will give me a name. And so
Okay, I do need to take a little side note here. So Todd, I don't want to say that you got in trouble, but they said that they could hear your papers rustling around, and so far I haven't heard your
paper.
Now I've done it. I haven't heard your papers rustling around, but I did just hear a Chad paper rustling around.
Yeah. I got the notes back here.
Yeah, he does.
I
He
show
does.
a lot of notes back that way.
I know.
I didn't hear a thing.
Well, you'll
Oh,
get
well.
used to it.
See,
so,
I can turn mine all the way down.
I know. No, can't hear you now.
Back whenever I want
It
to.
was
'Cause
only
I
that
got
easy.
control of
If
all of
only
this.
it was that easy. But so as it turns out, you don't get to use that music.
Don't get to use any music that anyone's ever heard. Hardly.
Yeah.
My whole attitude is, hey, if it's on the radio, it's free, and that's apparently not true. And when I was the chairman of the county commission, I wanted to have music. Once we finished our morning session, people would stand around and come up, talk to commissioners. We'd go out in the audience and talk to people that we'd been dealing with in the morning session. And I just wanted to have some music. I would pick out a band. It could be Led Zeppelin, it could be Boston, it could be whoever.
I've seen Boston 3 times, but go ahead.
Okay. And not recently, I'm sure. And were you backstage or were you out in the crowd?
I did go backstage.
Okay. And Michael Craig, our attorney at the county, he said, you can't do that. And I
Yeah.
said, well, sure we can. He said, we can't get sued. We can't spend all this money. So I'm not sure how they pulled it off. Sometimes they had some. It was, we weren't using it for commercial intent. My attitude was, if I can turn the radio on at a ball game or on a tailgate, I should be able to turn it on here. We're not selling ads. We're not doing anything. But that's my lack of understanding.
I have I can refer you to my entertainment law professor, and he'll be able to explain it.
Well, see, if I don't know it's wrong, it's not wrong.
Oh my
See, once
ignorance.
I
You can just plead ignorance.
Linda should have told me I couldn't play this music.
No,
Or-
no.
Did I say that on a previous
Yes.
podcast? The ignorance.
Whenever
is bliss?
somebody asks you how you're doing, just say that you're doing blissful, because ignorance is bliss.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm extremely blissful.
Ditto.
Yes, you are.
Ditto.
Congratulations. You've recognized it.
Blissful as it gets.
Oh gosh. So no
Life's a
cool.
lot easier that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so. That's
Yeah.
how I get
I'm
away
never
with most
wrong.
things.
Right? You
And
said
if you are, you don't care.
Yeah.
if
and
you,
you
said you
don't know
don't
it.
know it's wrong, then it can't be wrong.
Yeah.
Is this the direction you wanted this podcast?
Not
to go?
really.
Okay,
Not really.
Take charge, baby.
Okay.
It's just begun.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh.
We're gonna have a lot of topics for the apology tour. I'm liking it so far.
I know.
Yeah.
Who would your first apology be to?
Well, apparently you want it to be to you.
So it can't be that.
So I'm sorry for what I don't
don't
know,
know.
but I feel like I should offer a blanket apology to whoever in this world I may have offended.
Blissfully
Perfect.
apologetic.
Now you can go
It was from the bottom
into.
of my heart.
Oh, I believe that.
That
Okay, so who was your first guest that you interviewed?
the first one was Major General Larry Martin. He's retired Air Force pilot. He's part of the Two Blue Aces organization that they've invited me into. It's a leadership development consulting at a very high level, and I help them with the business development. I'm not, and it's all that it seems to be all 2-star retired Air Force generals. Started by some friends from high school. So General Martin was my first guest. He flew bombers and ran MacDill and was a professor and an extremely accomplished gentleman, an accomplished pilot. And, so we talked a little bit about one of the things he did is, if you've seen on the footage of a large bomber cargo plane coming in. They get down to about 5 or 7 feet. They drop the back door and they push tanks or cargo or whatever out the back. He's the one flying those planes. And so he's telling a little bit about the mechanics of you don't just go this, you've got to do different things. And I'm not a pilot by any means. And what the plane does once you drop 40,000 pounds, it goes up, you got to do throttles and stuff. So, you hear different things like that. So he was my first guest. It happened to be the day we were doing a book signing for their new book, Leadership of 100 Feet. And while I had him here, I said, hey, can I go ahead and interview you? So he was gracious. He's an easy interview. He's been interviewed hundreds of times. So he was very kind to me, as I was to you on your first interview with me.
Yes.
So he was the first one. Rowdy was second. I am hopeful that the sheriff will be the next one.
Yeah.
And I've been told I need to get about 5 of them done before we start publishing them. So,
but who is your ultimate?
I've never given that one bit of thought.
Mine's George W. Bush.
Okay, so I thought you wanted someone you might actually can get
Todd.
No.
Anything is possible. Anything.
in the podcast world.
You wanted your podcast to be positive. Be positive. I literally had a dream about this man last night. He and Barbara and his parents were sitting in front of me in front of a horse race. And unfortunately, Robert Downey Jr. was also there. So I went to go get a
Barbara
picture.
Bush?
Babs and Laura? Well, Laura.
Well, you just said Barbara Bush was here.
Well, Laura and George were there, and Barbara
George Sr.? George.
and George
Yeah.
Sr. They were all there, all 4. But so then I went to go get a selfie with Robert Downey Jr. And
3 hours later,
yeah,
you come back.
he was like moved on. George W.
That sucks.
I know,
I'm sorry that stinks.
but
I don't know. I've never.
I think that means I'm going to get him on the podcast.
I hope
soon.
so. I've never thought about who would be the dream guest. I'll give that some thought.
I thought you were going to say Raquel Welch, and I was going to be like,
She's dead.
all right.
Yeah, it was a sad day in my life.
Was that recent?
Well, not like yesterday, but in the last couple of months, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I thought she had like a son.
And George H.W. Bush and Mrs. Bush are dead too.
That's why it was weird.
They can be in dreams.
Okay, or nightmares.
Oh, no, that wasn't a nightmare. Interesting. And so I think that what I'm understanding is the overall theme is just life. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
necessarily in one sort of path
Yep.
or like niche. It can be broad and
Absolutely.
overreaching.
And that's my goal. I don't.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to do politics
Yeah.
because everyone does politics, and you can't win if you state an opinion. You
I
make
know.
50% of your audience mad, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to play gotcha with whoever I have come in. I want to do a positive thing where people understand something different about them and
Yeah.
give them more context when they're out doing their thing in public. I think politics is grossly overrated.
Which is
People have-
ironic because you were in politics.
I was a humble public servant, and but I think people look at politicians now as the entertainers that the entertainment industry used to be 20, 25 years ago. I think there's not that many true movie stars anymore that are star quality. There's performers that are on TV, there's performers that are on movies, but they just don't have that, panache about them that some of the other ones did. Maybe it's just me getting older, I don't know. But maybe it's the proliferation of 24-hour news, and that's all they do. And they make TV stars out of politicians who will give them a soundbite or will give them an interview or whatever. I think that has perverted and subverted the political system to a great degree.
I would agree with you because I don't need to hear this back and forth and a million, reasons why. I just want to, just the facts, ma'am. I just want to know what somebody believes. I don't want this arguing and all of these just kind of, I feel like it's a very toxic environment.
It is. And, with 24-hour news, they got to fill 24 hours
I
a
know.
day, and that's typically politics.
I know.
And,
But just tell me what happened and then move on. I don't want to hear
Right.
these like arguments about it.
but with the attention span of people today is they don't want to listen to 20 or 30 minutes
Mm-hmm.
to develop a story. And that's why hopefully what I will be able to do is spend some time talking to this person and finding out more about them. I'm not looking to break news. That's not certainly what I'm going to do. But that to me is a problem in the news business these days is you don't know whether it's an opinion or a fact. They state things as if they are fact. What would be nice is if it said, hey, this is my opinion instead of this is what it is. And I think that's a problem is headline writers say things. The Democrats say things about the Republicans, and Republicans say things about the Democrats, and they try and define them because that's what their consultants have told them. Hey, you got to define your opponent. Well, the last person you want really defining you is your opponent, because it's probably not true. I mean, I could say you've got a purple or dress, whatever color that is, and that's a fact. But I could never say, well, that's the only color you ever wear. That's not a fact. I could make it sound like that, but it doesn't mean it that way. And that is where I think TV and 24-hour news has gone. And I think it has done a great disservice to the political discourse in the United States and to just how people think, because there are few people that I can sit and talk politics with and not get into an argument, whether they're mad at me or I try not to get mad at them. I try and have moved to the center and try and listen to both sides and understand that both sides are lying. And they say stuff that they know may or may not be true or may have a kernel of truth in it. And then they state it as a fact, and there's no context anymore, and there's no explanation anymore. And I think that's a big problem in what's going on in our politics. And, so that's why I don't really want to do that. There's plenty of that out there. I want it to be like
You don't want
Mary.
to talk about real estate either?
No, you've got that covered. You are an expert in that.
Yes,
Isn't that the name of your
I
show?
am an
Expertly Speaking,
expert
or what's the name of your show?
in our expert opinion.
In our expert opinion, so there's really no room for me. Especially
Oh, no.
you've got Gary in there on a regular basis.
Data break, I think.
And
Data break with Gary Ralston.
Yeah.
Data break with Gary Ralston, and he's excellent at that. So I wanted to do something that, people when they finished talking to me said, hey, that was kind of fun. and
Yeah.
That was nice. And they'll take my call when it's all done.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I'm not here to make them mad or to embarrass them.
Yeah.
It's not my goal.
If I was on your podcast, what would you ask me? Let's get a little trial run here.
So, Linda, what have you done interesting lately? Why should you be on my podcast?
Oh, why?
Yeah, I want interesting people.
Todd, I'm the most interesting person.
You might be one of the more complicated people, but you may be one of the most interesting too.
Okay,
But
and
there's a whole bunch wound up in that naga between your two ears. I'm just going to tell you.
it's all good.
Some of it is.
I know. Chad today told me that we have a roster of over 90 now. And I said I probably
Over 90 what?
I don't know, staff, employees,
Advisors.
agents.
Here at the office?
There's over 90 people on our employee roster.
Which includes agents and staff.
Okay, here. I thought I heard Jonathan talking about we might be over like 103 now. And that may be Georgia, maybe
Yeah,
the
I think
Georgia
it's over
folks.
103 with agents and staff. I think it's over 90 advisors
Okay.
across the three offices.
So our growth has been phenomenal. We're very fortunate about that. And a lot of work has gone in by a lot of people. We've got wonderful staff that Jonathan Barreras, our COO, has figured out how to scale things. So if we add 10 or 15 more agents, we've got capacity with the existing staff to be able to do some of those things. And we're adding good qualified people. We're greatly expanding our property management business. We just opened an office in the fall in Orlando. We are closing today, I think, on an office in Georgia, South Georgia. On the actual real estate, we've got agents up there, so they'll be working out of a sticks and bricks facility in Georgia. Where we go next, I can't really say. I would love for us to be in Texas at some point, but that's a long distance away. But, we're growing. We're growing with quality people. We're growing in the state of Florida. For the last 2 years, our office has been the number one SVN office in the SVN franchise worldwide. And that's in the middle of COVID. So we've been very fortunate. We built this beautiful building while COVID was going on. Job supers would test positive for COVID. So a lot of construction would slow down and stop. But, we were still able to pull it off. And
All I was going to say was that you can add as many agents and staff as you want. I'm still only going to like 2 people here.
but there's 3 of us in this room. Which of us is the loser that you don't
1
like?
plus 1 minus 1 is still 1, Todd. Figure it out. Oh,
Okay.
whoops. Also, don't hit your mic whenever you are recording. Yeah. Everybody will get really mad at you.
Well, that's the challenge.
Yes. Yes.
So how do you like doing these podcasts? I mean, I know some are harder than others. Some guests are more effusive with their conversation and their comments, and some you have to drag it out of. Again, I've talked to 2. Both that I've talked to are extremely professional.
Right.
Rowdy is on TV. He's done like 8 or 9 Olympics in a row.
Right.
So he knows how to be interviewed. He knows how to interview. General Martin has been interviewed hundreds of times. How do you get stuff out of people that aren't really used to doing this?
So everybody that I've interviewed that has not been on a podcast before, every time they get done, they're like, that was so easy. And they had a really good time.
And you're sweating bullets saying you have no idea.
Meanwhile,
how
I
hard
have these lights blasting on me, and I can't sit still. And no, it is a lot of fun. I think that a lot of it comes down to just humor and the way that you present a question or, digging around. It's like, I think, but I like to talk about myself, people like to talk about themselves. And if you just pay the slightest bit of attention and just ask some detailed questions,
I'm sorry, were you talking to me?
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
But I agree. I mean, I think you get some that are better at interviewing than others. And, I kind of equated it. I don't know why I thought of this, but Guy Fieri, he does diners, drive-ins, and
Triple D.
Triple
Yep.
D. And I just wonder if he ever goes into a restaurant and eats something and just spits it out and it never makes it on TV and goes, that is the worst piece of lasagna I've ever had. Or these mussels are bad. I just think that would be hilarious.
Yeah.
So he would be fun to interview to say, how much of I'm sure they test it all beforehand.
Is Guy Fieri your dream guest?
No, but he's
Oh.
a fellow fraternity brother. He's a ATO from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Potential guest.
Yeah. If I've got a connection, but I'm not sure it's a good connection, but we'll see. But he would be fun. He spends part of his time here in Florida, and whether we could get him here or not, I don't know. But that would be a question I would want to ask him, and just the same way with you is you get these guests that sometimes you just really have to pull stuff out of.
Yeah.
And others, it just flows out, and you're just like, slow down a little bit. Let's just channel it a little
There
bit.
have
kinda
been
like I
some
am right
guests
now.
where I know I walk away and I'm like, I am exhausted. I am really, really tired. They've always been good episodes, but it has been a lot of work. I think,
So I feel after talking to Bridget for 15 minutes. I'm just exhausted. I just need a nap after talking.
I love Bridget. I spend probably 80% of my life with Bridget.
Well, that's not good because you should be spending it selling real estate instead of hanging with Bridget. She wants me to bring her dog Susie on and interview her dog.
You would love it. She would actually be a very good dog to interview. Susie's cool. I have a whole camera roll full of
Don't like
photos
to
of
see
Susie.
it. I've seen some. Well, when she starts talking,
Susie
we'll have her on.
Q Sellers is her full name.
All right.
Yeah. She's a good
She's
one.
a beautiful little puppy.
She is.
She misses her dad when he goes away to hunt and fish all the time.
They're happy to have their free time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anything else you want to add?
Nope. Our website is todddantzler.com. Got to get
The podcast is going to be called Todd's Podcast.
Everything you need to know will be on todddantzler.com.
And everything you need to know will be on todddantzler.com.
Is Eli your Chad?
I am the producer of Todd's podcast.
You are. Come get,
So I
come
am.
back, get back here behind the sticks.
I actually
You
sit in
control
Chad's
this.
seat
And
when
he's
I-
20 and he's looking for girls. So he said, I can say
Women,
that.
women.
Women, sorry. He's 20.
Thank you.
So he's available,
Almost
ladies.
21.
Almost 21.
When do you
He's got a
turn?
fake ID.
No, I did not.
Linda could hook you up. She's got a side hustle doing fake IDs. Don't
Well,
you?
Todd.
we'll air this
Rewind.
after the sheriff comes on, maybe.
Yeah.
He's been looking into Linda already. He said maybe she can be there when I come by and we'll just do 2 for 1. We'll pick her up and if he comes with SWAT, you should run. If it's just him, you'll be all right.
I'm gonna pull like a full Medea, just like out in her front yard, and she's like, "Come on, like I've got something for you. Come on." I would welcome it at this point. I wouldn't have to work. I wouldn't see a majority of people that I don't want to see. You know, that I'm like forced.
But
to
if you're
see.
in jail, you're seeing people you don't really want to be around, don't you?
Can't you just stay in your room?
In jail?
Yeah.
I think
Never
you kind
been.
of do whatever they tell you.
Never
It's
been.
up to you.
Never
No.
tried it out.
I have been to the jail with a tour of the sheriff when I was a county commissioner. He took us in, and it was a place you do not want to be.
I haven't been to
Even
this
when you're
jail.
with the sheriff,
haven't been to-
the chief of staff, and the head of the jail, you still don't feel safe in there. I mean, it is a tough place to be, and I've got a story or two I'm going to talk to the sheriff about the time that we were there, and it's
Nice little
it's
promo.
it's a tough place. I don't want to go back. I mean, to visit even. It's a tough place.
Were you in the men's side or the women's
The
side?
men's, he said, do you want to go to the women's? Because I was getting a tour to understand what we were doing and when we, put stuff in the budget. And I said, well, what's it like? Is it like the men's? He says, just like the men's, but with women. I said, I've seen enough,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
And, they've got to give the women time to prep before you bring men over there. So I said, no, I don't really need to or want to. But it's a tough place.
Yeah.
And
So you don't think I'd?
you wouldn't do well there. I'm pretty sure you would not do well. When you struggled with our lunch that one day.
Oh
you
my
are not
God.
gonna do well
Let's
in
get
lunch.
into
You're not-
this.
No, we are not getting into that. I don't even remember what it was.
I do.
1961 salad?
Nope.
Oh.
Jay Burns.
Oh. Okay.
We'll let a dead horse lie.
Yeah, we'll just put it on there.
Apparently you can't. I thought
apology
we were
to her.
past this.
Okay, well, obviously I wish you all the best luck. I think that you're going to do great. I think you're going to have some really great, people come in,
Hope
really
so.
great
Hope
guests.
so. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it. It'll be fun.
If you get George W. Bush, you will, obviously I'm going to be the first person you call because I'm going to sit where Eli is sitting. Or I
So
might
what
even
if I
sit
get-
right here in
What
this
about
chair.
George Clooney? Do you want me to invite you up for that?
Nope.
No interest in that? You want
Don't
the dead
care.
president. You don't want...
George W. Bush,
Oh, George W. I thought you meant... Senior.
HW. Yeah.
I was like, do you know something that I don't know?
No, George H.W. Bush is dead.
George W. Bush
Okay.
is very much alive and very much my dream guest on the podcast.
I wish you luck in getting him.
Thank you.
I don't know who has access to him, but have you tried contacting him outside your normal stalking channels?
I got this badge on Facebook that said that I was
Oh, I'm
like
sure it's legitimate.
a number one participant on his page, because I just like everything that he posts.
On what? On Facebook?
Yeah.
Am I going to have a Facebook page?
We may, and you can find it on todddantzler.com.
Thank you, Eli. I'm very challenged in this world that I'm entering
Is
into.
Eli, does he ask any questions during your podcast?
He hasn't yet. I didn't know that was part of it. Now that I see he has headphones and a microphone, we may integrate him in a little more into it.
Well, Eli will be at my desk for your podcast.
Correct.
So
Hopefully.
there will always be headphones and a microphone here, and I feel like you could bring some comedic relief.
Yeah. I've had a mic on everyone that we filmed.
Is that all I do,
Yet.
Linda?
Comedic relief?
Yeah.
I don't think you're funny. No, I'm just kidding.
Who, me?
No, me.
I try to get chat. I'm like,
How do you
Chad.
like him without his beard?
Yeah.
He looks younger.
Different.
I know.
mean,
I
know
was
you gotta gear it back
stunned.
down again, but is there
He
a
has like
camera
a 5
pointed
o'clock.
on
He has
him?
like a little bit more than like a 5 o'clock shadow
That
now.
looks like a 7 o'clock the next morning shadow. That's not 5 o'clock.
You say it's a
shadow.
1?
Yeah, it's a 1 guard, and it was a no guard before way too long.
I don't know
Really?
what you're talking about. What's a 1 guard?
It's the I think there is a 0 guard technically, but it's the lowest amount of hair that you can get on a razor, shaver, trimmer.
Is this really where you thought your life would be, talking about Chad's beard and
I had
shavers
so
and
many
groomers?
like
Somebody dreams.
visions of what it was going to be, and then now there
They
are
just come crashing down. How all around you?
quick, quick. Like, yeah, I'm definitely not. You know what? I'm not going to cry on this episode, so we'll just
Have you cried on any episodes?
no.
Good. The therapy's working.
Oh,
Or at least the Tito's vodka you take beforehand.
Hey, you remember that time that you said that your podcast wasn't going to be about jabbing people?
This isn't
my
his podcast.
sir.
This isn't his podcast.
This is my defense shield coming up.
He gets to say whatever he wants on this podcast, and then on his.
She can drink all the Tito's she wants. It doesn't really matter to me.
You know that I can't drink vodka.
Good for you.
I cannot.
So we've narrowed one down.
I
off the list.
cannot.
What is your alcohol of choice?
That would be wine.
Why
Oh my
are you
gosh,
playing music?
he's trying to play us out.
Wind this thing down. It's 5 o'clock, guys.
Speaking of wine,
Wine
that would be my
the
liquor
drink
of
of
choice. Yes, my liquor of choice would be tequila, but my drink of choice would be a rosé,
Okay.
which
I bought you a bottle of that stuff.
you did, Whispering
Rosé?
Angel,
Is that good stuff?
my favorite. Well, Chad's had enough, so guess we're gonna.
When did he take over this show?
He didn't even know what we were doing before we even started recording.
So I was today years old when I found out that this was a In Our Expert Opinion podcast. We've already done a podcast with you before, and I thought we were filming a podcast for you. And I was like, okay, first one, here we go. We sit down. Eli's like, hey, I need a microphone. It's like, okay, well, I'll plug you in a microphone. Not quite sure why I was doing that yet. And then we
You should have made the
started.
pre-production meeting that Jennifer had.
I was in multiple meetings. I came up with a great title. For
This
your
is what I was
podcast.
talking about, the devil's in the details. Pay a little bit of
Or the devil's
attention
behind the board.
today.
And I was today years old when I found out that I wasn't going to be behind the board for your podcast.
Oh,
That it's now
Eli.
I've handed the baton to Eli
Eli.
apparently.
Thank you. I appreciate
So-
it. Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, well,
We need you in the field.
it's where I do best.
And with that, thank you so much, Todd.
That's
for
it?
coming.
Did you want more? Did-
Thank you, sir. I have another.
You have anything else to add? We just talked about ToddDantzler.com, Todd's podcast. Any type of social media will be on ToddDantzler.com.
Only if Eli puts it on.
Eli's the producer.
I
He
am.
might jump in
he's
every
young
now and
he's single,
then.
he's looking for girls.
And he's-
women.
Anyways,
and
Thank you, Todd.
Linda,
rate,
thank you.
Good luck.
review,
You're going to do great.
Thank you.
subscribe,
Rate,
post,
review, subscribe
retweet.
in our Expert Opinion podcast. And soon, Todd's podcast. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Whatever you just said.